After my checkup, she slipped a note into my purse and whispered, "Run from your daughter-in-law now." I'm Eleanor, and I'm 68 years old, and I thought I knew what betrayal looked like until that moment in Dr. Rao's office when my whole world cracked open like an eggshell hitting concrete. You have to understand, I trusted my family completely. I raised Luke from a baby after his father died when he was 7. I sang him lullabies every night, taught him to tie his shoes, helped him with homework at this very kitchen table where I'm sitting now, shaking as I tell you this story. When he brought Marissa home 5 years ago, I welcomed her like the daughter I never had. I gave her my grandmother's pearl earrings on their wedding day. I babysit my grandson Theo every weekend so they can have date nights. I cook Sunday dinners for all of us every single week without fail. But that note, that goddamn note, it said things I never could have imagined. Dr. Rao's handwriting was careful and deliberate. Don't go home. Call me from somewhere safe. It concerns Marissa. And there was a phone number scribbled underneath that I stared at for 10 minutes on the bus ride home, my hands trembling so hard I could barely hold the paper steady. See, I went to that appointment thinking everything was fine. My blood pressure was good, my heart medication was working perfectly, and Dr. Rao said my vitals were excellent for someone my age. But something felt off the entire time. She kept asking strange questions about who handles my medications, who has keys to my house, whether I ever feel confused or forgetful. I laughed it off because I'm sharp as a tack, always have been. I can remember every hymn I've ever taught my church choir, every birthday in my family, every doctor's appointment I've ever had. But when I stood up to leave, that's when Dr. Rao did something that changed everything. She pretended to check something on her computer while she slipped that folded paper into my purse, and then she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Family isn't always safety, Eleanor." The way she said it, with such quiet intensity, made my blood run cold. I should have called her right away. I should have listened to that voice in my head screaming that something was wrong. But I went home instead because I'm stubborn and I wanted to prove to myself that I was being paranoid. I walked through my front door like I had thousands of times before, calling out hello to whoever was home, expecting normal responses, normal sounds, normal life. But everything felt wrong. The whispering in the kitchen stopped abruptly when I came in. Marissa was suddenly overly sweet, asking about my appointment with this bright, fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. Luke was distracted, wouldn't make eye contact, kept fidgeting with his phone. Even Theo seemed subdued, not his usual chattery self when he saw me. I noticed my pill organizer had been moved on the bathroom counter, the pills rearranged in a way I never would have done it. My heart medication was in the wrong compartment, and the backup bottle was missing from the medicine cabinet. That night, Dr. Rao sent me a text that made my stomach drop. Urgent. Not by text. Call me. But I was too scared, too confused, too angry at myself for being suspicious of my own family. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak of the house, every whisper of wind outside, wondering if I was losing my mind or if something terrible was really happening under my own roof. At midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I crept downstairs to get a glass of water, and that's when I heard them in the kitchen, talking in low voices they thought were quiet enough. But I've always had excellent hearing, and their words hit me like physical blows to my chest. "Power of attorney if we prove she's forgetful," Marissa was saying, and I had to grab the stair railing to keep from falling down. "Switch labels on her beta blocker, just one incident gets her hospitalized, and then we can show she's not competent to manage her own affairs." Luke's voice was weak, defeated. "I don't know if I can do this." "You don't have a choice," Marissa snapped. "We're drowning in debt, and she's sitting on a house worth $400,000 plus her pension. The notary comes Friday. We'll say she asked for us to help manage her bills because she's getting confused. One little medication mix-up, one trip to the emergency room, and the doctors will back us up that she needs supervised care." I stood there in my nightgown, barefoot on the cold hardwood floor, listening to my daughter-in-law plan my destruction and my son's weak protests. They were talking about my life, my independence, my safety like I was already dead. Like I was nothing more than an obstacle to be removed, a problem to be solved, a bank account to be emptied. The rage that filled me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It started in my chest and spread through my whole body like molten lava. This was my house, my family, my life they were casually discussing stealing from me. I raised Luke with my own hands, sacrificed my own dreams to give him everything he needed, and this was how he repaid me? By standing there while his wife planned to poison me with my own heart medication? But underneath the rage was something even worse, the crushing weight of betrayal. The realization that every smile from Marissa had been fake, every family dinner had been a performance, every "I love you, Mom" from Luke had been a lie. They had been planning this while I cooked for them, while I babysat their son, while I gave them money whenever they needed it without question. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I sat in my bedroom with the door locked, staring at Dr. Rao's note and trying to process what I'd heard. By dawn, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to be a victim. I wasn't going to let them destroy me without a fight. I was going to survive this, and I was going to make them pay for what they tried to do to me. I grabbed my identification, my emergency credit card, and the locket my mother gave me that contained the only photos I had of my late husband. I left a decoy note on the kitchen counter saying I'd walked Theo to school, then slipped out the back door before anyone woke up. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely start my car, but I drove to the only 24-hour cafe in town and sat in a corner booth with my back to the wall, feeling like a fugitive in my own life. When I finally called Dr. Rao from that cafe, she answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting for my call. "Eleanor," she said, and her voice was gentle but urgent. "I'm so glad you called. We need to talk immediately." She told me that a pharmacist had contacted her office 3 days earlier with concerns about Marissa. Marissa had tried to fill my heart medication prescription using a bottle that looked identical to my usual medication, but contained something completely different. She'd also attempted to cancel my EpiPen prescription, the one I need because of my nut allergy, claiming I'd said I didn't need it anymore. The pharmacist became suspicious and called Dr. Rao's office to verify, which is when they realized something was very wrong. The medication she tried to substitute would have caused a dangerous drop in your blood pressure, Dr. Rao explained, her voice tight with controlled anger. Combined with your regular heart medication, it could have caused you to collapse, possibly triggered a heart attack. If she'd succeeded in canceling your EpiPen and then exposed you to nuts, which she had access to in your own kitchen, the results could have been fatal. The clinical way she described my potential murder made me want to vomit. They weren't just planning to steal my money, they were planning to kill me and make it look like an accident. My own family, the people I trusted most in the world, had been plotting my death while I made them Sunday dinners and babysit their child. Dr. Rao connected me with an elder justice attorney named Ms. Calder and a protective services advocate. Within 2 hours, I had an action plan that felt like something out of a spy movie. They booked me into a hotel under a false name, arranged for emergency verification of all my medications, and scheduled 2 independent cognitive assessments to prove I was mentally competent. They also provided me with a toxicology kit to test anything I'd consumed recently in case they'd already started poisoning me. The next few days blurred together in a haze of legal meetings, medical tests, and private investigators gathering evidence. They found footage from a pawn shop showing Marissa selling my grandmother's music box, the one I'd treasured for 40 years. They discovered email trails discussing care facility reservation pending cognitive certification, and recorded phone calls with the notary confirming a Friday appointment for an assistance deed. They even found evidence that Marissa had tried to add herself to my bank account using a forged doctor's letter claiming I was showing signs of dementia. Every piece of evidence felt like another knife in my back. Each document, each recording, each photograph showed me just how thoroughly they had planned my destruction. They had thought of everything, covered every angle, prepared for every contingency except one. They never expected me to fight back. When Friday came, I was ready for them. Dr. Rao and the pharmacist had set up a trap, inviting Marissa to pick up corrected medications, while I watched from a side office with cameras recording everything. I saw her face light up when she thought she was getting away with it, asking if the old bottle could be discarded and pushing for higher dosages. She was so confident, so smug, so absolutely certain that she was smarter than everyone else. But the most satisfying moment came when she and Luke arrived at the notary's office, expecting to trick some unsuspecting official into helping them steal my life. Instead, they walked into a room containing Attorney Calder, Dr. Rao, and a court officer. Ms. Calder played the pharmacy recording for everyone to hear, showed Luke and Marissa my perfect cognitive test results, and watched their faces crumble as they realized their plan had fallen apart. The notary refused to provide services, obviously, and the court officer documented their attempted coercion for the district attorney's elder abuse unit. Within hours, I had a temporary restraining order against both of them, and all my assets were frozen against any unauthorized transfers. The pharmacy video, combined with the email trail and bank fraud attempt, gave the DA enough evidence for felony charges of attempted medication tampering and fraud. Luke came to see me privately after the arrests, and for the first time in months, I saw my real son instead of the weak, desperate man who'd been hiding behind Marissa's schemes. He was drowning in debt from some failed cryptocurrency investment, terrified of losing his house, ashamed of what he'd almost done to his own mother. He provided screenshots of Marissa's emails with some shady care consultant who specialized in helping families transition elderly relatives into appropriate care facilities and agreed to testify against her in exchange for reduced charges. Seeing him break down and confess was almost worse than discovering the plot in the first place. This was my baby, the little boy I'd raised alone after his father died, and he'd been so desperate, so manipulated, so weak that he'd almost let his wife murder me for money. The pain of that realization will never fully heal, no matter how many apologies he gives me or how much therapy he gets. The trial was a nightmare of public humiliation and private grief. The prosecutor laid out their story math with clinical precision. Pharmacy sting plus notary recordings plus pawn shop footage plus bank fraud attempt plus my perfect cognitive exams. Marissa's defense attorney tried to claim she was just a concerned daughter-in-law looking out for my best interests, but that argument collapsed when text messages surfaced showing her writing to Luke, one scare and the papers signed themselves. Watching the jury deliver their guilty verdict was both satisfying and hollow. Marissa was convicted of attempted elder abuse, fraud, and medication tampering. She got 3 years in prison plus mandatory restitution. Luke received probation, community service, and mandatory financial management classes. The court issued a permanent protective order, keeping both of them away from my property and my finances. But winning in court didn't fix the damage they'd done to my family, my trust, my sense of safety in my own home. I installed a medication camera dispenser that records every pill I take, hired a daily check-in nurse, and changed all my locks. I converted the music room where I used to practice piano into a free weekly senior safety circle, where other elderly people can come share their stories and learn how to protect themselves from the people who are supposed to love them. Luke has been attending family therapy and paying restitution according to his court-ordered schedule. I allow him supervised visits with Theo once a month because that little boy shouldn't suffer for his parents' crimes, but I'll never trust Luke alone in my house again. I'll never feel completely safe around my own son again. That innocence, that blind parental love, that's gone forever. The hardest part isn't the money they tried to steal, or even the medication they tried to switch. It's the knowledge that they sat at my dinner table week after week, accepting my love and my cooking and my babysitting while planning my death. It's the realization that every time Marissa hugged me goodbye, she was thinking about how much my house would sell for. It's knowing that Luke watched me take my heart medication every morning and wondered if today would be the day they swapped it for something that would kill me. Some nights I still lie awake remembering that conversation I overheard in my kitchen, hearing Marissa's cold, calculating voice discussing my murder like it was a business transaction. I think about how close they came to succeeding, how easily they could have poisoned me and made it look like an accidental overdose or an allergic reaction. If Dr. Rao hadn't been paying attention, if that pharmacist hadn't been suspicious, if I hadn't had the courage to fight back, I would be dead right now and they would be living in my house, spending my money, raising my grandson to believe his grandmother died of natural causes. The rage I feel about that isn't the hot, explosive anger I felt that first night. It's a cold, steady burn that lives in my chest every day, reminding me that the people who are supposed to protect us are sometimes the ones we most need protection from. It's the fury of betrayal, of innocence lost, of trust shattered so completely it can never be rebuilt. But I survived. I fought back. I refused to be a victim. I used the system that's supposed to protect elderly people, and for once, it actually worked. I found allies in unexpected places, gathered evidence, and made them pay for what they tried to do to me. I'm still here, still living in my own house, still taking my medications safely, still singing in the church choir every Sunday. That's what I want other people to understand. You don't have to accept abuse just because it comes from family. You don't have to let people steal your life just because they share your last name. You can fight back, you can win, you can survive even the worst betrayal imaginable. But you have to be willing to stop making excuses for people who want to hurt you, even if those people are your own children. Kindness needs boundaries. Love requires wisdom. Trust must be earned, not given blindly just because someone calls you mom or grandma. Keep your medications labeled and secure, your bank accounts protected, your important documents locked away from people who might use them against you. Keep your heart open to genuine love, but not unguarded against those who would exploit your generosity. I learned the hardest lesson of my 68 years in that kitchen at midnight, listening to my family plan my destruction. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew, braver than I ever imagined, and more resilient than anyone who wants to hurt me could possibly understand. They tried to make me a victim, but instead they made me a survivor. And that's something they can never take away from me, no matter how much they stole or tried to steal. My name is Eleanor, I'm 68 years old, and I'm still here to tell this story because I refuse to let them win. And if my story can help even one other person recognize the warning signs, trust their instincts, and fight back against family members who want to hurt them, then maybe some good can come from the worst experience of my life. Maybe my pain can become someone else's protection. Maybe my survival can inspire someone else's courage. That's why I'm sharing this story, as painful as it is to relive. Because elder abuse is real. It's devastating, and it's often perpetrated by the people we trust most. But it's not inevitable, and it's not something you have to accept. You can fight back, you can survive, and you can win. I'm living proof of that, sitting here in my own house, safe and free and furious enough to make sure this never happens to anyone else if I can help it.